Right now, in the United States, there's a crisis that's, well, it's quietly reaching a breaking point. And this isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about the very foundation of stability collapsing for hundreds of thousands of people. So in this explainer, we're going to dig into why this is happening now and what it really truly means to be without a home. Okay, so to really get our heads around what's going on, we've got to start with the sheer scale of this thing. The latest data, honestly, it paints a really stark picture of a crisis that's not just growing, it's picking up speed.
So this is the number that really sets the stage for everything else, over 771,000. Think about that for a second. That's like the entire population of a city like Denver or Seattle. And that's how many people are experiencing homelessness on any given night in America. It is the highest number ever recorded since we started keeping track.
And here's the thing. The crisis isn't just growing, it's actually accelerating. I mean, look at this. We saw a 12% jump between 2022 and 2023. You think, wow, that's a lot. But then the very next year, it shot up to 18%. That is the largest single-year increase we have ever seen. This is not a slow creep, it's an explosion. And what's just heartbreaking is who this is hitting the hardest. We're talking about families with kids. The rate of homelessness among this group just skyrocketed by nearly 40% in a single year. Let that sink in. On any given night, that's almost 150,000 kids in America who don't have a stable home to go to. You know, these numbers, they're staggering, right? But they really only tell part of the story. To truly understand this crisis, we have to look past the charts and see the actual human experience behind these record-breaking figures. So let's look at 3 different situations, each one showing us a different side of this epidemic. We'll see a man forced to live in his car after a layoff, a father trying to raise his sons in a hotel room, and a family just trying to navigate the harsh realities of a shelter system. So meet Eddie. He used to be a database administrator, but after losing the job he'd had for 7 years, his apartment was the next thing to go. Now, his 20-year-old Honda Civic, that's his bedroom, his kitchen, his last refuge. He spends his days at the library applying for jobs, and his nights in a grocery store parking lot, feeling both totally invisible and at the same time completely exposed. And then you've got someone like Calvin, who's raising his 2 young sons in an extended stay hotel. For them, life is exactly this, not quite homeless, but not quite home either. It's this limbo, you know? A constant reminder of displacement that just doesn't have the stability or the permanence of a real home. And for the Ramirez family, their only option was a place called the City Hope Shelter. And their first impression? Well, it tells you everything. They said it looked less like a temporary harbor and more like an institutional lockup. For them, this wasn't relief. It was just the beginning of a whole new kind of struggle. So once inside, daily life for the Ramirez family was just a battle for some kind of normalcy. Imagine trying to sleep with all this constant noise, just a thin curtain separating you from dozens of other people. The unclean bathrooms, the unsettling encounters with other residents in distress, it all created this pervasive sense of grime and fear that just chipped away at their dignity and their kids' sense of safety. You see, Eddie's car, Calvin's hotel room, the Ramirez family's shelter, these aren't just random, isolated stories. They're the direct results of much larger systemic pressures that are pushing more and more people to the absolute brink. So, what's really going on here? What are these forces? You know, all those stories we just heard, they're all being fueled by this really powerful economic engine. At its very core, this whole crisis is about a fundamental mismatch between what people earn and the skyrocketing cost of a basic human need, shelter. Okay, so the main driver, the big one, is this severe housing affordability crisis. Rents have just shot up, while wages for low-income workers have pretty much stayed flat. Now add to that the fact that those pandemic-era safety nets, like eviction moratoriums, are gone. And what you get is a trap. So many families are now just one unexpected medical bill or one job loss away from losing it all. But, you know, this affordability trap, that's only part of the picture. When people do lose their homes, they often find themselves not just without shelter, but suddenly on the wrong side of the law. This leads us to a really devastating concept. It's called the criminalization of homelessness. The reality is pretty simple, actually. Being homeless itself isn't a crime. But the basic things you have to do to survive, like sleeping or even just sitting down, they become illegal when you don't have a private space to do them in. So think about it. For Eddie, sleeping in his car isn't just uncomfortable. It could actually get him in trouble with the law. It's illegal. For someone else, just resting on a park bench could lead to fines, maybe even an arrest. These laws create a really vicious cycle. They penalize people for being poor, and they bury them in legal trouble that makes it even harder to ever escape homelessness.
So when you take all of this together, the staggering numbers, the personal stories, these systemic pressures, it really forces us to ask a much bigger, more fundamental question. This whole crisis is making us reconsider what home even means.
So I'll leave you with this. What is a home? Is it just four walls and a roof? Or is it something more? Is it a place of safety, of dignity, of belonging? Because when the simple act of surviving becomes a crime, this isn't just a housing crisis anymore. It really becomes this profound challenge to the basic promise of safety and opportunity that we like to think is available for everyone.